Good morning.
Jump in the shower.
Welcome everybody to the Marysville Tulalip Chamber of Commerce Business Before Hours event. As you can see, we've got some great people up here that we're going to be talking to in a little bit, and so I want to go ahead and get us started. I do want to mention we've got the business award nomination forms up front still. I know a couple of you guys were talking about different businesses that you've worked with over the past month that have done an amazing job for you, so I want to make sure you guys recognize them. And to kick us off, I'm going to have us welcome our chairman of the board, Dom Amore, to the stage.
Thank you, Jessica. Welcome, everybody. Happy Friday, happy Friday, happy Friday. I feel like that's a message that needs to be repeated. As I said, welcome to the Greater Marysville Tulalip Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Annual Candidate Forum. Today we have a very tight schedule, and it's a very important one as well, too. So we are going to have our forum that will provide a revealing look at 4 of the races in our area: the Snohomish County Treasurer candidates, the County Sheriff candidates, County Council District 2 candidates, and the Marysville City Council seat number 5. As you all may know, that each one of these events is sponsored, and today's sponsor deserves a special thank you as well. I also want to, as part of my duties, is to thank the elected officials that have come today as well, too. Due to the time constraints, we are unable to name them all, so if I could ask the elected officials to please raise your hand. Thank you, and if we could give a collected round of applause to the elected officials for their service. As I was mentioning before, our sponsors, I'd like to introduce our breakfast before hour sponsors, Marysville Toyota, and to talk about that is the co-owners Jim Colin and Perry Watson.
All right, thank you very much. Hey, good morning, everybody. We know we're moving quick this morning, so let me just tell you that we are extremely proud to be with you this morning. But more importantly, I think we're extremely proud to be a part of the community. Let me just tell you that our business opened up in July of 2016. There's a little shot behind you to remind you we're right there on Smoky Point. The owners are here this morning, myself and Perry, who formed a private equity partnership to open the store. There are 1,237 Toyota stores in the United States. Marysville Toyota is 1,237. So we're the newest Toyota dealership in the entire country. Very quickly, Perry is going to talk to you a little bit about our mission and what we're here to do.
Our mission is very simple. It's to sell cars and corresponding services in such a manner that customers are so satisfied that they choose Marysville Toyota for all their automotive needs and refer others to us. For years, the car buying experience has been a frustrating, stressful process, taking too much time. So you spoke and we listened. And we came up with something called the Easy Way buying process, which includes one person, one price, one person, and one great experience. Some of the tenets of that are that all of our cars are clearly marked with our best price. It's negotiation free. We do extensive market research, so those who have done research know that when they see the price, we'll give you the price right up front. By the way, we got our statistics, and we're exactly $35 cheaper than every other Toyota dealer in town, and you get that price right up front. The other thing is we give you maximum trade-in value right up front. Because it's so transparent, we need to give you maximum value for your trade. The other thing you need to know that our experienced consultants, which we have here a lot today, are not paid on commission. So whether you spend $5,000 or $50,000, they get paid the same. The other situation is that we have a 30 or 3-day or 300 miles exchange policy to ensure satisfaction. The bottom line is that we want to make sure that you are happy and we want to be the best dealership in the industry. What are the results so far? Just in 1 year, Marysville Toyota is the #1 brand in the Marysville market. The second thing that we're very proud of is we just got our statistics, and Marysville Toyota is the #1 Toyota store in the state of Washington, Oregon, and Montana and Ohio in sales satisfaction. Idaho, excuse me, what I said, Iowa? If you don't believe me, see what the customers are saying. Look at our Google reviews. They're outstanding. And in the month of August, our Facebook was 4.9. The other thing is that we took the liberty of doing a employee survey, and our surveys among our employees are some of the best in the region. And the last thing that I want to say is that organically, Marysville Toyota has the highest percentage of female employees and total employees of any dealership in the state of Washington. So we're proud of that. So if you want a stress-free, interactive buying process, come to Marysville Toyota. We're trying to put the fun back in the car buying business. One last point, I would be remiss if I didn't give you a commercial. Through the month of September, we're offering a $500 trade-in bonus for every customer to buy new or used vehicles. We have those right there on the table. Thank you very much.
I love it when people are like right on time. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Again, thank you for being our sponsor this morning. Keep in mind, everyone, that when these sponsorships provide the opportunity to be mentioned in all promotional pieces distributed to over 2,000 businesses and individuals, your whole presentation will be broadcast on television as well, too. Each event is filmed and will be aired on Marysville's public access stations, Comcast Channel 21 and Verizon Channel 25, as well as being uploaded onto the Chamber's YouTube channels. So let's get into the meat of this morning. I'd like to introduce our moderator for today's event. Serving as our moderator is Peter Rudolph, a business attorney at Galloway Law Group. He is also on our Government Affairs Committee and currently serves as an ongoing respected member of our Board of Directors as legal counsel. Please join me in welcoming Peter Rudolph.
Thank you, Dom, and thank you to everyone who's here this morning. In each race, we will begin with a 2-minute opening statement by each candidate. To maintain the Chamber's reputation of impartiality, the candidate to speak first for each race was chosen by a coin flip prior to today's meeting. Following opening statements, our candidates will be asked a series of questions developed by our Government Affairs Committee. Alternating first response positions, each candidate will be given a 2-minute response period to the question posed. In the second segment, our candidate will pose their own question to their opponent. In this segment, each candidate will have 1 minute to pose their question, and their challenger will have 1 minute to respond. Helping our panelists track their time for today's responses is Chamber Emissary Todd Fallman of Realty One. Here he is in the front row. Todd will be holding signs when candidates have reached their 1 minute point and their 30 seconds point. If you fail to stop, you will hear a gentle notification that your time is up. Thank you, Mr. Fallman. So, and now I'd like to introduce our candidates. For the county treasurer position on my right is Mr. Brian Sullivan and Rob Toyer. Next to them, candidates for county sheriff, incumbent Ty Trenary and Adam Fortney. To my left are candidates for county council district number 2, Anna Rohrbaugh, Republican, and Megan Dunn, Democrat. And on my far left is the 2 candidates for Marysville City Council, Kelly Richards and Jeff Seibert. So moving on to opening statements. The Snohomish County Treasurer will go first. There's 2 minutes each and selected by random coin flip. Brian Sullivan, you may begin.
Is this on? Okay, sorry. Well, welcome everybody. I would like to thank the Tulalip tribes for hosting us today and the Marysville Chamber. A little background about myself. I served on the Mukilteo City Council for 4 years. I was the mayor of Mukilteo for 8 years, where I oversaw 8 budgets and the largest annexation in state history. I served 7 years in the state legislature, where I was the chair of the Natural Resources Committee, and the last 12 years on the Snohomish County Council representing Mukilteo, Everett, and Tulalip. I'm the budget chair for Snohomish County. I oversee $1 billion budget, both its writing and implementation throughout the year. The top 4 issues for running for treasurer is, of course, I've introduced the Taxpayer Bill of Rights to the County Council. We'll be voting on that next week. We are working on a new $5.5 million ProVal software system in order to integrate both the assessor's office and the treasurer's office, which is critical to the income of the county. I'm proposing that we reorganize foreclosures, and we have $1 million in our foreclosure fund, and so when we take homes away from people, we would use the fund to actually give homes back. And then, of course, better transparency online for investments in financial operations. Although it's a pretty cool-looking website, it's not very intuitive. So I look forward to working with the county, and I think that about does it. So.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to speak with you guys today. For the last 8 years, I've had the pleasure and honor of serving as your Marysville City Council member, working with John Naring and many other elected officials in the room this morning. I've also served 7 years on the Marysville Fire District, where I'm currently the chairman, finishing up my term there. During that time, we've accomplished a lot of great things, but most notably, what I'm proud of is our fiscal responsibility that we've demonstrated in both organizations. Last November, I kind of came to a fork in the road in my political career, and I decided that I wasn't going to seek re-election. And I really believe that others should have the opportunity to serve just as I have, and we've got really 2 great candidates that are seeking my spot, so I appreciate them stepping up and running for office. Once some other elected officials noticed that I wasn't running for re-election, they approached me and said, "Hey, County Treasurer's position is open. We think you would be a great candidate for that." And so I looked into it a little bit more, and I'm thoroughly convinced that I'm the right guy for the job. During my career, I've served 6 years in the Marine Corps. I was deployed overseas during Operation Iraqi Freedom. After that, I received a bachelor's in business administration from Western Washington University. Shortly after that, I had the opportunity to work in the family business, Torrey & Associates, CPAs. Under my uncle's leadership and mentorship, I learned a lot about accounting and taxes, as well as investments. In 2010, I thought it'd be a good opportunity for me to start my own firm and kind of take my own path, and started Torrey Wealth Management, where I focus on investments, accounting, taxes, anything to do with numbers you could think of, I've done. So. Of the 2 choices that you have for county treasurer, I believe that I am the best qualified, and I will do the best for the county. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. So if I may hazard a guess, most people in this room might not understand the county treasurer's role. What responsibilities does the county treasurer hold, and what draws you to serve in this capacity? Rob, please start first.
So the role of the treasurer's office is to bill, collect, distribute, and invest tax dollars for junior taxing districts, fire districts, school boards, cities. And so what I look at the role as the elected position is to run the office, working with other elected officials across the county, and really be an advocate for the department. I've spent several hours working with leadership within the office. I've met with the current treasurer for multiple hours, picking his brain, asking him for the best advice that he could give. for the next treasurer coming into this office. One of the things as a financial advisor that I'm really passionate about is the investment side of things. So for an example, Marysville Fire District, we have our income, expenses, and then what's left over, the treasurer's office has an opportunity to invest. And so just being a finance guy, that's where I want to focus a lot of my time and my efforts. I believe that having a Series 7 license in 66 gives me the unique opportunity to really advocate for the investment pool that we have. Right now, I think we're shooting for roughly 2%, which is conservative investments, and I think that that's what we should do. But there's some new legislation that came out of Olympia that kind of gives us an opportunity to look at more longer-term investments. So I think that we could probably do a better job in that area, and that's one of the things that I will be focusing on as your treasurer.
Well, great. To recap what Rob had said, there's 3 divisions in the county treasurer's office. One is collection and redistribution. The treasurer is the official treasurer for all the school districts, water districts, sewer district, diking districts, as well as Snohomish County. There's a foreclosure division where if you, sadly, if you don't pay your taxes, we foreclose on your property, whether it's commercial or a house. And then finally, there's the investment division. We have one of the finest public investment officers in the country that gets a great return for all of our jurisdictions as well as Snohomish County, and that investment runs roughly about $1.1 billion per year. The Treasurer's Office is an interesting office. It's a small, elegant office of 27 FTEs or employees, and it's critical. We collect 98% of the revenue for the county and all the jurisdictions and expend less than 1% of the county general fund. So it's a critical function, but what's also critical is working very, very closely with the assessor's office. This is a function that's absolutely critical to county government and collection of taxes, because without the assessor doing the assessments and delivering new parcels based on our rapid growth and development, one of the fastest growing counties in the country, soon to be the second largest county in the state. So it's critical. That's why the integration of the ProVal system is so critical for us in the future. So it's a great department, wonderful employees, and also I'd like to finish by saying I'm also endorsed by the past state treasurer Jim McIntyre and the past county treasurer Bob Dantini.
Thank you. Question number 2 for the county treasurer candidates. If elected, what are your top 2 priorities, and how will those impact the county? Brian, I noticed you listed 4. Maybe you could emphasize what 2 that you'd most like to prioritize.
Okay, well, thank you, Peter. Well, I will emphasize that reorganizing the foreclosure fund to help with housing. We have over $1 million in our foreclosure fund. It's a fund that rises and falls, and when we foreclose on properties, we go to a public auction. Once we go to a public auction, we pay off the mortgage, and the original owner gets whatever's left over. So what happens is we populate the foreclosure fund based if we cannot find the original owner within 3 years. So not surprising, that needs some serious reform and oversight, because it's over $1 million now. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights, educating the public. I was on the original bill in 2002 that gave tax breaks to the elderly and the disabled, and it's something I want to expand upon at the local level. We do a very, very poor job of getting that information out. So, and of course I mentioned the software system and better transparency online. So sorry I had to go to 4. So, apologize.
Well, during my first 90 days, what I plan on doing is sitting down with the management team and really, which I've already done, but when you're running for office, sometimes you wonder if everyone tells you the whole truth. So as the elected treasurer, I'll sit down and ask them the same questions that I had previously asked them. And one of those questions was, what can we improve on? And of course, in any organization, whether it's a business or political, there's always room for improvement. And so what I want to do is really dial in on customer service, making sure that our department is advocating for the taxpayer and that we're transparent and accountable to the taxpayer. Fully aware that coming into a new position, there's a learning curve. When I first got elected to city council, one of the first things I did was reach out to one of my mentors, Mayor John Nering, and just try to get as much information from him as I could. So I appreciate his mentorship. Thank you, John. I'll do the same thing with our current treasurer. So focusing on customer service, how we can improve the office. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, is the investment side of things. As Brian mentioned, we have one of the best chief investment officers in the country. I spent several hours picking his brain and working with him and understanding his role as the chief investment officer and what investments he prefers. And then, of course, we slightly butted heads on what I would do differently. So I want to focus on looking at the investments because I think that's a good opportunity for municipalities and junior taxing districts to maximize the rate of return that they have on their savings. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian and Rob. We're going to move on to opening statements for candidates for the Snohomish County Sheriff. These are, again, 2 minutes each, and randomly selected Ty Trenary is going to go first.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ty Trenary, and I'm currently your sheriff. I've spent about 32 years in law enforcement. I started in a great big town called Eatonville, Washington, south of Tulalip, up near Mount Rainier, and came here in 1991 and have raised a family. In fact, my wife and I, our very first home was here in Marysville, and my wife is still an elementary school teacher here in the Marysville School District. Had the opportunity to work in a lot of great assignments. I spent a tremendous amount of time in our patrol division. I've promoted up through the ranks. One of the best gigs I've had as I served in Stanwood as the police chief up there for 4 years. It's one of our contract cities, and as a lieutenant, I had the opportunity to go up there and work as their police chief. I've also served in leadership roles within several different union assignments, and before being appointed to the sheriff in 2013, I was one of our patrol captains overseeing not only our patrol division, but most of our contract cities. I think the really important piece as we go forward is talking about how, as a growing county, we're going to continue to address the opioid, mental health, homelessness crisis, but we also have to talk about how we're going to provide services. Snohomish County is one of the top 5 growing counties in the nation, and that can be a great thing, but it can also be a curse. And so one of the focuses has to be on being able to be more innovative. Recently, we moved all of our CPL, concealed pistol license process, which is a very cumbersome live process, to online, to be able to allow people greater access to our services without having to go to a brick and mortar location. As we go forward, I think the conversation has to be about the agency as a whole. We're over 700 people. We cover 2,000 square miles with a budget of over $120 million. There's a lot of work that goes into that process, and we have to be efficient with that money, and we have to be diligent. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. My name is Adam Fortney. I am running for Snohomish County Sheriff. Politics is tough enough, but my boss is sitting next to me, so that can be uncomfortable at times, but we've done this a few times now, so it's all good. So, born and raised in Snohomish County. I have kids I've raised in Snohomish County. I'm still raising kids in Snohomish County, and I have kids who are raising kids. I am vested in Snohomish County, and public safety is my passion, and that's why I'm here. So right out of high school, I did a stint in the U.S. Navy, then I got right into police work. It was new to me. No one in my family was a cop, and so it's been an interesting, the last 23 years I've been doing this job. I've had various assignments. I'm proud to say all of which I've worn a uniform and been in a marked patrol car. What does that mean? That means I've been out doing the job for 23 years, and I still do it. My current assignment is as a patrol sergeant at our South Precinct, our busiest and largest precinct, where I work graveyard, which is by choice. I have the seniority to do day shift or something else, but I choose it because that's what I love to do. Over the last 23 years, I've also had a unique leadership position at the Sheriff's Office that not too many people have had, but actually both my opponent and I have held this. We were elected to the Deputy Sheriff's Association president. So what that means is that the deputies and sergeants, the men and women who do the job, they elected me 5 terms to be their president to represent them in labor issues. I gave that up after 12 years to do this. That gave me experience of basically going up to the sheriff's office almost whenever I wanted and having a conversation. So I have never been the quiet guy in the background. I am the upfront vocal guy, which is why I'm running for sheriff. And so after He's been in office about 6 years. I've been up there a lot. After about 5 years of suggestions, if you will, maybe tweaking policy here, maybe can we try something different here, and bringing my perspective from still working the street, and having the answer basically been no for 5 or 6 years. I said, you know what, there's a conversation to be had in 2019. This is a huge election for public safety. And as probably by the end of this thing, you'll figure out there's 2 different paths here that we're talking about. And so anyway, I'm going to end with a question, actually. I'd like you guys to consider, as you drive around Snohomish County, in the terms of public safety, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Thank you.
So for our first question toward the candidates for sheriff, law enforcement is facing a lot of challenges. For example, jail overcrowding, prosecutorial discretion, and budgeting. How would you address these issues under the current policies, and what policy changes would you advocate for? This question is a response of 2 minutes, and Adam, you get to go first.
Well, you just said jail overcrowding was an issue. That has not been an issue in Snohomish County. That's one of the main things I'm running on. And it's very hard to discuss in a couple minutes, I got to be honest with you. And one of the things that has been a big topic for me has been the jail restrictions and refusals. And what I mean by that has been very difficult for the deputy sheriffs and police officers in Snohomish County to book misdemeanor people who are high on drugs. And there's reasons for that, okay? That is probably the foremost thing that I would change, is that we need to lift those restrictions. I think it is so important, not just to police officers and deputy sheriffs, to the community. And what do I mean by jail restrictions? That means it's a misdemeanor in this state if someone breaks in your car and steals your stuff. Okay? Even after 23 years, that's important to me. When we can catch a car prowler and bring justice to that person and bring justice for that community member, that's a big deal to me still. For the last 6 years, when we drive that person to jail, if they happen to be high on heroin, there's a very high likelihood they are not going to jail. And not only that, once we're done with that investigation, we take the time and resources to do it. The current sheriff's office policy is we have to drive them back to where we got them. Folks, that's not okay. That's not okay any day of the week. There's a basic core of what we do in law enforcement, and it's in the name. It's law enforcement. We should be enforcing the law. For eternity, up until the sheriff's restrictions, jail restrictions, we've been able to do it. It can be done. It can be done professionally. It can be done humanely. And we can protect Snohomish County against liability. I can't stress enough that how important when you're a police officer on the street, you get into this job to help people. You catch people committing crimes, you think, I'm going to hold this person accountable by booking them into the jail. When you can't do that, and the suspect looks right at you and goes, you know you're not going to be able to book me into the jail because I'm high on heroin, and they're right 1, 2, 3, 4 times, it's a horrible feeling as a police officer. Okay, and I'm saying after 5 years, it's time to change things up, and we need to get back to enforcing the law.
Ty, 2 minutes.
Thank you. In 2013, when I was appointed sheriff, I had a meeting with the FBI, and that meeting centered on the use of our jail. We'd had, as many of you will remember, we had a series of jail deaths, and at that point, the public outcry was our jail needs to be safe and humane. In the last 6 years, we have made dramatic changes to our facility. In 2013, we had 1,200 people in a jail that was designed for 1,000. Please understand that we book 28,000 people a year, roughly 500 to 600 a week. The jail is not being left vacant. The jail is not being underused. The jail is being used exactly for what it's appropriate for. When you look and see on a daily basis that over half of the people in our facility have been booked for nonviolent misdemeanors, where officers at the front door will say, I don't believe this person is a threat to public safety, who are addicts and mentally ill, we have a responsibility to provide a constitutional level of care. Whether we want to or not, that's what the law says. And so, through the last 6 years, we have had to pay a ridiculous amount of lawsuits and change and retool how we work. And we are finally on a path with using programs ahead of arrest, like our law enforcement embedded social worker program and the work that we do at pre-arrest diversion. And we're seeing dramatic changes with people. We just had 35 people this week get jobs at Amazon who had been part of our program that would, but for what we're doing, still be in our jail. When it comes to budgeting and prosecutorial issues, the prosecutor's not here today, so I'm not going to speak for him, but I do believe we need to do a better job of of identifying crimes that make our communities unsafe. And I will tell you that the council and the executive have been phenomenal. My first year in office, they gave us $2.5 million to add medical staff into our facility because they knew it was needed. We're not sitting on a huge pot of money, and I think you all expect us to be diligent with our money. We no longer in the sheriff's office go back every year and ask for additional money because you all said we want you to live within your means. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to opening statements for Snohomish County Council District candidates, or Council District 2 candidates. Selected randomly, Megan Dunn gets to go first.
Is this on? Okay. Hi, my name is Megan Dunn, and I'm running for Snohomish County Council District 2. This district represents Tulalip, Everett, and Mukilteo. I live in the Lowell neighborhood of Everett with my family, and I have a 20-year background in working on local policy issues. One of the things I'm most proud about was bringing the community together to work on districts for the city of Everett, which passed last year with 65%, and this brings geographic distribution of city council members in the city so that we have better representation and more responsive government. Public service is important to me. I've served on the Planning Commission for the City of Everett and also the Human Needs Commission, which distributes funds for human services. So having an understanding of land use and human services is really important for this position. In addition to community organizing and my public service, I also have an advanced degree in policy studies, which gives me the skills I need to analyze policy, evaluate policy, and really work to implement meaningful policy change. So it's important to me to be bringing people together around a common mission, and those are skills that I would bring to the council. My focus for this campaign is to look at livability, sustainability, and affordability, and I'm excited to bring those skills to the council. Thank you.
Ready? Hi, my name is Anna Rorba. I'm currently a council member in Mukilteo, and this past year I was unanimously voted as vice chair with 6 other Democrats that I serve, and I'm proud of my bipartisan support that I have. When I'm elected, I will work every day to make Snohomish County the safest and most prosperous county in the state. To create prosperity, we must foster economic growth, which grows our revenue source. I will incentivize businesses to not only come here, but also to stay here. By attracting more businesses, we create more job opportunities that build on the strength of Snohomish County. I will also focus on removing the barriers to build affordable housing, increasing our supply, giving more people access to homes. When we focus on growing our revenue source, we ease the tax burden on our businesses and our homeowners, keeping more people in their homes. When we encourage economic growth, we create a sustainable workforce, a sustainable budget, and a sustainable revenue source that, again, eases our tax burden. As an elected public servant, I think it's our #1 responsibility to protect the rights of our citizens. We must protect the quality of the air, our water, and our land, but we also must protect the environment we live in. We have to make it uncomfortable to do drugs and commit crimes. When we focus on growing our revenue, for example, it allows us to provide more services, such as a dual diagnosis center, treating both mental illness and drug addiction at the same time, drastically reducing the crime that we see in our neighborhoods and getting more people help. This comes along with our law enforcement officers and the success of the embedded social workers, making what they do work even better. I am the candidate who puts people above party and politics, and will work every day to affect change on the things that affect your business and at your front door. Thank you.
Thank you. The first question to each of you is with regard to tribal relations. With the Tulalip tribes community here in District 2, how will you strengthen the relationship between the county and the sovereign nations of Snohomish County? Anna, you go first.
I think that's a great question. I think one of the things I want to acknowledge is that Tulalip and the tribes are a major economic force in Snohomish County, and we must protect our relationships with that. They provide a lot of jobs and do a lot of really great things giving back to our county. I will ensure that we continue a strong relationship and a partnership, and I will continue to reach out and find out what is needed and how we can help as a county council member. I want to know what they need, and I don't have the answers for things that I don't know, so I want to make sure that we have an open door policy at all times. And I see three things that are very important. Infrastructure. How can we support the growing needs that Tulalip is feeling, especially with the new casino coming out? Also, public safety. They're dealing with same things that we're dealing with all throughout the county. How can we come alongside them and help them with the growing opioid epidemic and the homelessness that they have to deal with? And economic development. Where can we come alongside them and help them succeed? And what do they need from the county to do that? Building great relationships, I know, is one of the missions of the Tulalip Council. And just recently, I was the one that pushed through a meeting, just a simple meeting with the tribal council to find out what they wanted to do with the property in Mukilteo. It took me 4 months to do that. And I want to remove those kind of barriers if there are at the county. So I am going to be the voice that makes sure that we have a seat at the table and we're going to talk about the things that really matter. I believe in building great relationships and starting with this open door policy because I believe that builds trust and builds collaboration so we can get things done.
Thank you for this question. We've had a number of forums, and this is the first time we've had a question on tribes and improving relationships. So I appreciate seeing this. So for me, working with the tribes is part of my platform. It's one thing that I reached out first in March. I approached the tribal council and I've met with tribal leaders multiple times to find out from them how to improve the relationship we have with the tribes and as a sovereign nation, recognizing them. So I worked to develop a platform in conjunction with tribal leaders already. This is a living document, and so I'm absolutely, looking forward to continuing to hear from tribal leaders and tribal members and residents in Tulalip who are non-registered tribal members. So I would absolutely support funding a permanent, full-time tribal liaison position that has the authority to work on jurisdiction, policy, and legal issues. I would permanently recognize Indigenous Peoples Day. I would work with Everett to amend the city charter to recognize tribes and tribal nations, which is they don't recognize the sovereignty of tribes. I would also ensure equity in hiring of tribal citizens and ensure equity in resource allocation for human services, wellness programs, and education. And I would extend recruitment for District 2 boards and commissions. We have over 150 boards and commissions at the county level. Brian Sullivan just appointed our first tribal member to the Planning Commission. That's never been done. I will continue that tradition and seek out and recruit tribal members to serve on our boards and commissions. I would also attend tribal meetings and celebrations to hear directly from members and leaders. And finally, I'd assist in having a ballot drop box on the tribal reservation. That's part of state law. It hasn't been done yet. There's a disagreement on where it should go. If we can't decide between two places, put two of them up. So, and also lobby the executive to sign an internal policy agreement to better support tribal coordinating. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to opening statements for the Marysville City Council Position 5 candidates. These are, again, 2 minutes. Kelly Richards, you've been selected to go first.
Oh, it is on. Okay, awesome. First of all, thank you for having us. This is an awesome forum. Why am I running? My name is Kelly Richards. Why am I running for Marysville City Council? It's a vacant seat. Rob Toyer has chosen to move on, so I saw the opening there and figured that I was as qualified as anyone to be on Marysville City Council. I've been involved in many things in the city. I've been on the Planning Commission for the last 7 years. I've been involved with PTA as past president. I've been involved with Rotary when they ran the Pumpkins for Literacy. I've been in Marysville Music Boosters. I've helped there. I've helped with 10th Street Boosters. Boy Scouts. My son actually just earned his Eagle Award the other day, which was awesome. So I get involved in the community. I work in the community. I work for Marysville School District as a paraprofessional at Pinewood Elementary. So I see the kids daily. I see the families daily. I know what's going on in the city, being involved in the different organizations that I'm in. I'm also on the Marysville School District Enrollment and Growth Committee, which we're trying to decide how the high schools are going to be fueled or fed, or where the citizens are going to be going to high school, which is important, to care about the community and be involved in it. I've always believed that rather than sit back and complain about something, get involved and try to make a difference. The best way to find solutions is to talk to people and listen to what they have to say, and talk to more than just the professional. Talk to the people that are in the trenches. Talk to the people that see what needs to happen, because getting different ideas, sometimes you'll come up with something of, I never thought of that. Marysville's a great city, and I love to live here, and I'm really looking forward to being on City Council. Thank you.
Jeff, you may begin.
Good morning, Marysville. I'm Jeff Seibert, and I'm running for council position 5. I would like to thank the Chamber and their sponsors for putting on this forum, the audience for attending, and you, the viewers, for watching. The 16 years that I had served on the Marysville City Council was a privilege, and I thank the citizens for that. I'm asking that you allow me another opportunity to serve our community as your representative. The first priority of government is public safety. I have and will continue to fully support the fire district and the police department. I have lived in the Marysville area since 1987. My wife and I have raised 2 daughters, both of whom graduated from Marysville-Pilchuck High School. I am employed as an electrician and have been a member of the IBW Local 191 for 30 years. I have consistently voted against raising property taxes. I was involved in an economic development strategy that has brought more retail businesses to Marysville. The revenue from that provided funding for traffic improvement projects, as well as added bike lanes and walking trails. I believe my experiences working with the mayor and the other council members will help me to continue to improve the quality of life for the residents of our community. I'm proud of the work I did when I was on the city council with the other council members to establish a fiscally responsible policy that provided for improvements in our community without raising property taxes. We added over 90 acres of parks, including Ebby Waterfront Park, Marysville Skate Park, Strawberry Fields for Rover. Transportation improvements since 2002 include 116th Street from I-5 to State Avenue from E.B. Slough to Grove Street, State Avenue from 116th Street to 136th Street, State Avenue from 136th to 152nd Street, Ingraham Boulevard, and the 51st Avenue connection between 84th and 88th Streets, the I-5 overpass at 156th Street, and Ebby Slough Bridge. When I was on the council, I was a member of the Public Works Committee for 16 years, 14 years as chairperson, Finance Committee for 14 years, 12 years as chairperson, and the Snohomish County Solid Waste Committee for 14 years, the Public Safety Committee for 6 years, and the Economic Development Committee for 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you both. And our first question for you is in the area of economic development. Where do you see the opportunities for economic development in the city of Marysville? Jeff, you go first.
One of the major opportunities is Soper Hill and Highway 9. There's large tracts there, and building on some of this work that we've already done, once we reach this level of revenue from retail development, that it's time to work on the second stage, which is developing the Marysville Arlington Industrial Center, and that will help bring living wage jobs to our area, and that in turn will promote more spending in our community from residents that live here.
Kelly.
Want to reread the question?
Sure. Where do you see opportunities for economic development in the city of Marysville?
Well, I think that Marysville has an awesome opportunity with the Cascade Industrial Center, which is in North Marysville. I see that getting a lot of jobs for our local citizens. Marysville is a bedroom community for everywhere down south as far as employment. It'll be nice when we get the Cascade Industrial Center up and running. We've got plans to have the overpass at 156th with on and off ramps. That'll help get traffic in and out of that location. It used to be farmland, and it was great when it was farmland, but it really hasn't been farmed for years. So it'll be nice when we actually have property and land that will actually be bringing decent paying jobs to our local citizens, get the people from having to commute south to being able to work local. It's just an awesome opportunity for growth.
All right, we have with us this morning a unique opportunity. We have candidates running for various levels of government. And so we'll pose a question next to the candidates for county sheriff, county council, and city council. And we've touched on this already this morning. Local cities, Snohomish County, and sovereign nations are dealing with the opioid crisis in various ways. What will your role be in addressing this epidemic? Sheriff Trenary, you get to go first. 2 minutes.
It's tough to talk about this in 2 minutes, but we've already talked a little bit about the idea behind the embedded social worker. I will just tell you, and I don't want to steal thunder from Adam, but I think this is where we disagree. I can tell you that for 32 years, a pair of handcuffs and a trip to jail was the easiest thing we did, and it worked, frankly. It hasn't worked for this crisis. And if it did, that's what we'd be doing. What we've had to do is completely retool how we approach this issue. It's the most complex drug impact I've seen in my career. I thought the meth epidemic that we saw in the 90s was one of the worst, and I absolutely believe the heroin epidemic has surpassed that by more than double. The challenge is that we see it as a law enforcement issue, so we take that round peg square hole issue. And what we've learned the hard way is that when we focus on what's creating the issue and get that individual help, which is slow and painful, we get them out of the stream of criminal justice and we get them healthy again. We spend 76% of our general fund on criminal justice in this county. And I think that if we can look forward and see that by partnerships, working with the city of Marysville, working with all of our cities, frankly, and collaborating through a multi-agency approach, we're seeing a reduction in people that are becoming addicts, and we're seeing people get healthy, and we're seeing people that like chronic utilizers that we're using more than $1 million a year in law enforcement, fire, EMS, hospital, jail services that are getting healthy and getting out of that revolving door issue. Going forward, we just have to expand on what we've been successful with. There's the haves and there have-nots. If you've been impacted by this issue, you see it completely different than those that haven't. And I think we need to have more dialogues out in our community. Many people believe that this addiction is a choice, and frankly, I've seen the reverse of that. We see a large group of people that are addicts who started with a prescription that didn't want to be addicted. Thank you.
Adam Fortney.
Thank you. Yeah, you can't sum this up in 2 minutes, but there's definitely some differences here. And this is a great question. Folks, nobody is saying the police or the sheriff's office, a police chief, a sheriff, is responsible for solving the opioid epidemic. And I am not downplaying at all. It is real. It is nationwide. It is definitely impacting Snohomish County. I get accused sometimes of we're going to book our way out of this epidemic. Not what I'm saying. Not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying for the last 6 years, we have had difficulty enforcing the law. And what the role of the Snohomish County sheriffs under my watch would be, we get back to basics. And yeah, there's going to be no more free passes. I don't think there should be. Not only are the police officers and deputy sheriffs in this county, they're wanting that. I think the community is demanding it. You can drive around in Snohomish County, take a look around. Is what we're doing working? There is a reason that crime is the #1 issue in this election, and there is a reason that I'm getting a lot of traction during this election. People are frustrated. So in no means, don't take anything from what I'm saying that we're going to solve the opioid epidemic by putting people in jail. But are holding people accountable for their crimes important? Absolutely. And that's going to be my #1 focus as the Snohomish County Sheriff. And hear me loud and clear. I'm not running on dismantling any social services. If we have people in our community who need help, who have been addicted to opioids, no matter how they started, and they're ready to make that change, I will be their biggest advocate. Let me tell you that right now. And my deputies will also be their biggest advocate. Now, we have had a very interesting week in Snohomish County. I don't know if you've heard or not, but there was... It came out in the paper and in the sheriff's office social media as a stabbing in the 1200 block of Highway 99. Folks, it was a murder in a homeless camp. That's what it was. I think people are ready for a sheriff that's going to get real with them, let them know the real issues that are going on. I don't know that anybody's heard that, but that happened this week, and we should be talking about that. Now, that's no one's fault. That could happen under any sheriff's watch, there's no doubt about it, but we have to start being real with the community and real with what the lack of enforcement has got us over the last 5 or 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the county council candidates. Megan Dunn, what would your role be in addressing this epidemic?
Thank you. Well, I think everyone here knows someone who is struggling with this or has been impacted by this crisis. We need to look at 3 things: outreach, prevention, and rehab. We have a drug take-back program, which is important in reducing, preventing new addicts and preventing children from getting addicted. And outreach is usually not covered by Medicare and Medicaid, so that's one area where the county has an important role in finding people and offering services to them. Prevention, we can be looking at harm reduction policies, and then rehab. The most important thing is after rehab services that we have wraparound services for post-treatment, so that people have legal help if they need it, housing if they need it, services to help them re-enter society. I've been following the county council meetings and funding for opioids for a while now, and we're excited that the Denny Youth Center is going to be renovated, and they're actually opening a dual diagnosis center there in 2020 or early 2021. So there'll be two 16-bed in-treatment facilities, which are sorely needed for this county. So that's an important change coming. And then my role on the county would really also, I would ask the health district to look at this issue. We have 44 municipalities in the county, and not all those cities have the resources needed to really dive deep into policy solutions. So I would ask the health district to put together a stakeholder policy that involves all the people at the table and come up with recommendations so that cities, our smaller cities, have some ideas for better policy solutions to move forward.
I'm going to look at the question really quick. Okay, so I think that we need to continue our collaboration between the cities and the health district and other agencies as well. I think we're doing a good job. I think we need to do better and take more action. I do believe that we need to use our laws as a disruption. When we continue to ignore that, we cannot leverage that into care or consequences. And I look at it as, I have a teenage daughter and a teenage son, and when my daughter either breaks curfew or more likely sasses back, I just have to do one warning to take her cell phone away for 24 hours, and it works like clockwork. And then that works over and over again. So I can disrupt the behavior in that way, and we need to do that with this crisis. And it's not just the opioid epidemic, it's the crime that's coming along with it. So what I see is we need to disrupt that behavior so we can leverage that into care. And I've been advocating since I started running for this race for a dual diagnosis center in this county, having our own dual diagnosis center. Right now, treatment programs, 30, 60-day, 90-day treatments, don't treat the cause of the problem. And we need to treat the cause to get rid of the recidivism we see, to get rid of the criminals that are back on the street. We need to have enough compassion in our leadership to enforce our laws. And Dual Diagnosis Center treats both mental illness and addiction. And I don't believe anybody with mental illness should be sleeping on our streets. So we also must fight for every mitigation dollar in this lawsuit. Every single mitigation dollar. Tulalip needs it, Everett needs it, our entire county needs it, and I will be one of those huge advocates. As one father shared with me, they had to learn, in March, when I first filed for this position, they had to learn how to stop enabling the behavior in their home after years and failed treatment times. And he turned to me and said, we need the county to stop enabling it on our streets. And you better believe I'm going to fight for those parents that need our help, because this goes across every single economic ethnicity all around Snohomish County. So this heroin is wreaking havoc on our streets and in our county and for our economy, and I will fight to make a real difference.
Thank you. We're going to pose the same question to the city council candidates. What will your role be in addressing the epidemic? Kelly Richards, you can go first.
I think Marysville is in a unique opportunity because our mayor and surrounding cities, with help of the county, has started the embedded social worker program, which is working. From everything I've heard, it's getting help to those who want it, and convincing those that don't want help that help is what you need, because if you choose not to, well, then you get to go spend some time elsewhere locked up. And we would just as soon get help and make you a productive citizen versus being someone that's homeless. So the city has done a pretty good job, at least addressing those issues, that I look forward to being part of that.
Jeff Seibert, 2 minutes.
So my role in that would be to work with other council members and federal, state, county administration to see what policies need to be changed to help work on this problem, and also to reach out to the medical community and see if there's we're sending people to treatment. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe there's something we need to be doing different on the treatment side, but I'm not a medical professional, and so that would be something that would need to be taken to the medical community. The embedded social worker, I voted for that when I was on the city council, so I agree with that policy. But we need to continue to change and see what will work. Trying to serve people to treatment is the best option. However, that doesn't mean they get a free pass. If they're committing crimes, they need to be held responsible for that. Thank you.
Well, we are ahead of schedule, said no moderator ever. You've all earned an extra minute for the next question. Perhaps you could coach some of our national candidates for time management. So this is your opportunity to ask questions of each other. If you could limit your question to a minute and your response to 2 minutes, we should have more than enough time to get through everybody. Rob Toyer, you get to go first.
Great, thank you. And thanks again for this opportunity. I spent the last 10 months campaigning across this county from Mount Lake Terrace to Briar, all the way out to the small town of Index and up to Stanwood. I met with the management team for hours and asked them questions. I've driven down to Olympia to meet with the state treasurer and ask him for advice. I've reached out to other county treasurers to ask for their advice and their best practices. Spent several hours meeting with our current treasurer and picking his brain for knowledge and advice. I poured over thousands of documents and websites, preparing myself for the role of county treasurer, and learn as much as I can about this role. There's always more work to do, but I'm prepared to do this job on day one. There's far more to serving the county treasurer just holding an elected position. What have you done to prepare yourself to serve as the next county treasurer?
Well, thank you for the question, Rob. Obviously, I've been working with the county treasurer as a city council member, as a mayor who did budgets, sold bonds, as the chair of the finance committee. I've worked with Kirk Sievers for 35, almost 40 years. So I was a seatmate to the previous state treasurer, Jim McIntyre. We worked together on, who was a trained economist, by the way. We worked very closely on tax reform at the state level. So as a municipal manager, again, this is a small, elegant department. A municipal manager has to be able to be part HR director, part treasurer, and part day-to-day operations person. So I've spent my whole career, my whole life preparing for treasurer. You know, I've sold hundreds of millions of dollars in bonds, and I've overseen economic downturn in the county, and I'm proud of my track record. And I'm proud of working with the treasurer and the assessor and the auditor and the sheriff and overseeing their budgets, as well as the courts and the prosecutor. But I think my experience suits me to be treasurer.
Brian, it's your opportunity to ask a question.
Well, great, Rob. What goes up must come down, right? So we know that in 2008, when I was elected to the Snohomish County Council, we had to face a global recession. I think the question would be, how will you work with the next economic downturn with the county executive and council, and what would your role be?
Thanks for the question. When I first came on to the Marysville City Council, one of the reasons why I ran is because I thought we had some economic downturns and we had some financial crisis. So I brought my financial advisor and accounting experience to the table. I worked on the finance committee. We had to make some tough decisions. Sometimes you have to make cuts. Sometimes you have to make priorities and what programs you're going to fund. So I don't believe that we're going to see an economic downturn in this county in the near future, but should it happen, I will certainly work with the exec's office and the county council to prioritize any spending that we have to. And quite frankly, as a county treasurer, our budget's dictated by the exec's office anyway, so we can put in our 2 cents, but at the end of the day, the executive and the county council have the final say. So I will definitely work within those parameters and continue to advocate for the treasurer's office.
Thank you. We're going to ask the same question, or allow the candidates to ask each other a question. Adam Fortney, you get to go next.
Thank you. Well, you gave me a full minute to ask a question, so you might regret that. I'm going to start with a statement. So, in politics these days, I don't know that as a group, as a community, that we can ever agree on every issue. I can assure you this, though. If you decide to elect me as your sheriff in November, you will never leave a room wondering what my position is, okay? I can be very direct and always be very respectful, very professional, but you'll never question or leave a room wondering what a position is on any various topic. With that said, I think people are tired of politics as usual. I think people are tired of politicians that say one thing and then do another. And that leads me to my question, which is, we get back to these jail restrictions and refusals. The sheriff my opponent has a very public position on that, and he's been very clear about it. If you folks are here today, you probably pay pretty close attention to politics, and you saw the Herald interview. Most of that interview was on jail policy, and he's very clear. The restrictions and refusals have to be in place. They're protecting against liability. It's the only way to do it in this day and age. It's working, and we have to have them. So I'm here to say, as a patrol sergeant at our South Precinct, I don't know what changed, but over about the last 4 to 6 weeks, jail restrictions are almost non-existent at the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office. So I want to ask my opponent, why do you have a private or internal position on jail restrictions and a completely different public position?
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I hope you have a great day today. So thanks, Adam, for asking that question. I think it's a great question. So let me just give you some statistics real quick. I mentioned this before. There's 28,000 people that come through our jails, bigger than some of our smallest cities in this county. Roughly 70 to 100 people a day. The average length of stay is 14 days. So if you're imagining that's like a hotel, moving people out constantly. Now, it doesn't look like a hotel, but that's the same kind of mindset. In 2013, we would have 3-day weekends with no medical staff on duty because we weren't budgeted for medical staff. That was one of the reasons why we had people dying in our facility. Today, we have a fully staffed medical unit. We have made some great changes in the last 6 months. One of the things that's happened is we've been able to fill all of our nursing positions. So instead of being short-staffed or working without staff, we now have a doc, we have a contract doctor, and we have all of our full-time nursing positions filled. That has enabled us to provide a greater level of care. When we get to 250% of our medical unit capacity, we start panicking a little bit. And my hope is you would want us to panic a little bit. Hospitals, Providence has a 600-bed daily population, and they do the same thing. And so recently, we were able to contract with a company called Ideal Options, who is coming into our facility and adding extra staff, which has allowed us to be a little bit more flexible with our ability. We were at 2% turnaway. We're right now at about 0.5%, which is much lower than our smaller cities here in Marysville and Linwood with their turnaway rate. And so, yes, we have been very fortunate in the last 6 months, but frankly, that's driven by our staffing. And if staffing changes, then we have to take a look at how many people are in our medical unit and can we provide them with the level of care the law says we have to.
Now it's your opportunity to ask a question. 1 minute.
So we talk a lot about, Adam and I get to talk a lot about the jail, and what I guess is kind of frustrating about that is we don't get to talk a lot about the rest of the organization. Because as I mentioned earlier, there's over 700 employees spread out all over a 2,000 square mile county. We have over 500 volunteers that work in our search and rescue unit. We have the only flying hospital through our search and rescue team that flies the Pacific Crest Trail. So we're a big organization. It's just not a jail. We get hung up on the issue of accountability. And Adam, I appreciate you bringing up the homicide earlier this week in the homeless camp, because last week we went in and did traditional police work in that homeless camp. It was called Operation Root Canal, and we went in and did a sweep, and we arrested everybody that we could. And those arrests were typical for that type of area, low-level, nonviolent misdemeanors, and they were out within 48 hours. And what happened? We had a violent action. Why do I bring that up? Because I think where we differ is clearly traditional policing doesn't work, and it's costly. How are you going to pay for the things that you're telling the public you want to do?
Thank you. Fantastic question. He mentioned I think it was a couple Wednesdays ago, they went out to that exact same homeless camp where the homicide took place just this week, between two homeless people. That was the first enforcement action organized by the sheriff's office in 6 years, folks, in a homeless camp. They have had free reign. Even when we catch them doing misdemeanors, we haven't been able to book them in our jail because they're high on heroin. So I'm glad he brought that up, and I'll let you folks decide whether that's politics in this campaign or whether he thinks it's the right thing to do. So clearly I do support that type of enforcement action and glad he took it. It is not the solution. It is not the solution to this problem, okay? But enforcing the law gets to the core of what we do, and we have to get back to it. So I personally think, and I already said this once, not one person, one sheriff, one leader is responsible for that homicide that took place. It could happen tonight when I go to work. It could happen next week. But I have to be real. I am the graveyard sergeant running around at night seeing the impacts of these policies. And do I think that the last 6 years of lack of enforcement, and I'm not joking, of free reign in these homeless camps might have led to that or been a contributing factor? 100%, I think that. And I think if we can get a change in leadership, a change in the direction of public safety, I think that would go a long way. And folks, he mentioned budget. How am I going to pay for it? Hey, look, it's not all about budget, because you know what? I'm going to inherit the exact same budget that he has when I get elected in November, okay? But it is about focus of the office. Where do we want our priorities to go? It is about internal policy at the sheriff's office. Our internal policy is what dictates our disbursement of funds. And folks, it's a large part of the budget. 76% of the budget is law enforcement. Okay? But it is how you use those funds. It is direction of office. It is policy. It is taking the handcuffs off of police officers and deputy sheriffs and putting back on the criminals where they belong. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna Rohrbaugh, this is your opportunity to ask Megan Dunn a question.
Yes, hi Megan. Your platform is about green energy, as you say, affordability, sustainability, and livability. You have previously suggested increases in business taxes, new building fees, as well as a housing levy, which is a direct tax on our homeowners to balance the budget. In addition, you have shared that you support safe injection sites and other similar failed policies we have seen in Seattle, which has a direct link with increased crime and homelessness. However, you do not mention how you will pay to implement your policies. So here's the question. How are you going to pay to implement and pay for the impact of your platform without raising taxes on businesses and homeowners?
Thank you for that question. Did you just take a DNA test, Anna? Lizzo? Nobody? Okay. Okay, good, thank you. So I think there's certain wedge issues that Republicans like to bring up. Some of these issues are decided at the county level, like some harm reduction for the safe injection. Yeah, that's decided at the county level. I'm not proposing one of those. I'm proposing having a housing levy put on the ballot to let homeowners decide, to let let taxpayers decide that. We can, well, there is balance in looking at affordability, sustainability, and livability. We can have more efficient land use by increasing density in our urban core. That does not have an impact on our county budget. We can work with our cities and our county to look at our land use, to look at these issues, and to make reasonable policy changes. Some of this can be increasing efficiency. We can also be looking at changing some of our structures so that they're more efficient, like a detached accessory dwelling unit can have pre-approved projects in place that are that can easily be added to a homeowner's land without having a big impact, or it can just be pre-approved, so it's an easier situation. So, we have a sustainable budget right now. We need to continue to follow that process, and the council decides the purse strings for the executive's office, so we can continue to look at our human services, look at our resources, and there's also certain state taxes that we can be getting rebates back on. One thing I have mentioned is a working family tax credit, which would put money right back in our pockets. So.
And now it's your opportunity to ask a question.
Okay. So Anna, you have. We'll switch it up a little bit and talk about traffic. One of your statements you've made is that you will drastically reduce traffic, but you also say that you don't want to increase taxes. So what are some specific ways that you will drastically reduce traffic, and how will you pay for it?
Yes, I don't think I'm very careful about never saying I will never increase taxes. It's the death of a politician, I think. So I don't believe that's true. But about transportation, I have said I want to drastically reduce congestion. And one of the things that I was able to do last year, I was asked specifically to go with Economic Alliance with the 11 other dignitaries to go to D.C. and talk about the infrastructure, the needs we need. And I, as a city council member, with the other city council members and managers around the county. And we fought hard to tell them our story, to tell them that with the fastest growing county in the state that we need more funding. And we spent a lot of money out of our taxes, wouldn't you? I'm sure you guys agree, for a project that hasn't even come into Snohomish County yet. So I'm going to be the strongest advocate, along with the other council members, to make sure that we get our fair share. We get what's due Snohomish County. I've been married to a man that's in the transportation industry for 21 years. Building roads and bridges. So this is the backbone of our economy. This is how we put people to work. This is how we keep people working. So what am I going to do? I'm going to fight for every dollar that I can in Olympia. Absolutely every dollar. And I'm also going to make sure that line comes all the way up to Everett and doesn't go off to Issaquah or Ballard. We need strong voices, and I will be a bulldog on this transportation issue because I believe, once again, that the infrastructure is the backbone. This keeps our manufacturing, our industrial, and aerospace industries moving. It keeps our economy strong so we can provide all the other industries out there. One of the things I will say is we have to be careful about that $30 tab. We have to be careful what that's going to do to not just our transportation, our infrastructure, our roads, but what it's going to do to all those skilled workforce people that are working, that are putting their kids into school. We have to be careful. We've gotten whatever's happening with Sound Transit, but we have to fight for the dollars that we need to continue to manage the growth that's coming our way.
Jeff, now it's your opportunity to ask Kelly a question.
Candidate Richards, the city has a program called TIP, which is Transportation Improvement Project List. Could you explain what that is and what the reason why it's so important to the city?
The transportation, what was it called? Improvement Project List. I don't know all the details of it, but during Planning Commission, I know that we've talked about different plans for getting the Swift buses through Marysville. They're acquiring or working on getting some stations put in areas so that they can have stops every, I think it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes where we're going to have buses going through Marysville. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but I think it's planned for about, I want to say 2025 or 2027. So it is in the works to get some busing that direction. And we're also working with Community Transit, hopefully, to get more routes in Marysville. As far as the TIP itself, that's one of the things I will learn when I get on Planning Commission, or I get on City Council.
And your question?
My question, okay. Jeff, I've personally observed and heard feedback from many other credible sources that you have not shown much apparent effort in this election. Other than saying, I was on City Council, not actively campaigning or attending community events. As an active civic volunteer myself, it makes me wonder, how committed you truly are to our community and getting out there to support our citizens and community organizations. If elected, what will you commit to doing for our community outside of the minimum required city council duties?
So as you stated, I was on the city council for 16 years, and I was very actively involved in the community in that time period. The last 2 years, I've kind of taken a breather. When Rob said that he wasn't going to run for council, I had kind of pooled the people in the community that I knew, and no one seemed to be willing to step up and run for office. Unfortunately, when I filed, then there was 5 people that decided they would like it. So as far as not being active campaigning, I've put my time in as far as being visible in the community, and I think that my name and the effort I put forward speaks for itself. What would I do outside of the minimum city council bills? Well, minimum is showing up to a meeting 3 nights a week. I've been on committee meetings, and I served on that. I've attended functions, even going to Washington, D.C. to represent our city, and gone to county council meetings and other meetings, RFA meetings, done lots of stuff above the minimum requirement. Thank you.
Thank you. We have about 8 minutes for closing statements. I'm going to start on the other end, and Jeff, you have 1 minute for a closing statement.
So, Mr. Richards has said that he's the most qualified person for the job. I think the 16 years that I spent on the city council shows that I am the most qualified person for the job. And when I'm committed to a project, I stay with it. I've served all that time. I was on all the committees, and I've shown that I was there for all of them. I don't miss meetings. I show up. I do the job. Thank you.
Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. My closing statement, I think I'm right for the job, a new set of eyes to an open position. I listen to people. I talk to people. I try to come up with a solution that works for the most people, that's beneficial to as many people as we can make happy. You can't make everybody happy, but you can try to come up with a solution that'll make the most people happy. I would also like to say that I'm endorsed by Mayor John Naring, Stanway's Mayor Leonard Kelly, County Councilman Nate Naring, former Marysville School Superintendent Becky Berg, City Council members Camille Norton, Steve Muller, Mark James, Rob Toyer, also Marysville Fire Department, IAFF 3219, and my local union, the SUI 925s, and that's it.
Megan.
Thank you. So I've proven that we can bring people together around a common mission. We did it with districts. I've passed several local policies with the county council, with the current county council, including Nate Naring with a waste reduction policy. So I have a track record of success, and to me that really matters, to show that we can work together on issues that we agree on and move them forward. We don't want to see dysfunction and infighting with the council. We really want to work together to move things forward. So these are my values, but above all, I'll be responsive to the needs and the voices of constituents. And together I know we can make Snohomish County a brighter place for everyone. We are already a prosperous county. We see that because we have some of the largest growth, and we are one of the fastest growing counties in the country. I also think it's really important to talk to the people who are doing the work. For example, I just met with people in the Human Services Department and found out we are opening a dual diagnosis center in the next coming months. So to me, it's important to not just have my own project ideas, but to talk to people who are doing the work. So I'm really looking forward to listening and moving issues forward, and I thank you guys for hosting this. And once again, my name is Megan Dunn for Snohomish County Council.
Yes, my name is Anna, and I'm running for County Council District 2. As the only elected in this race, I have the experience. I know what it means to pass a sustainable budget that puts people first. As a certified leadership consultant and vice president of the City Council, I know how to bring a diverse set of people together and make the tough choices that put people above party and politics. I am proud of my bipartisan support all over the spectrum because it reflects on how I will represent you. You are Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and even more, and I want to represent all of you. This is not about party. I want to work on the things that affect you at your front door and help your businesses thrive. I will advocate to bring a dual diagnosis center into this county. I will stand up for those victimized by the criminal activity on our businesses and in our homes. I will advocate for the transportation dollars to build upon the infrastructure that we need so traffic doesn't have to ruin your day. I will also advocate very strongly to bridge the gap in our very special, unique, skilled workforce labor by building more connected pathways to education for our youth and also those that need a transition. When I am elected, I promise you, I will work every day to make sure that Snohomish County is the safest and most prosperous county in this state. Thank you.
Adam. Okay, thank you for hearing from us today. We really appreciate the time. We're politicians up here. We're trying to get elected. We're running campaigns. So I highly encourage everybody, question everything you heard today. Question us. Okay? We should be open to those questions at all times. We're going to say things. We're trying to get elected. If we say things that just aren't sitting right with you or think, well, how could that be? Feel free to ask us. I am more than open to that. And if I could point to one thing where it might be a window to what other people are saying or what other people think of what I have been able to do in the last 6 or 7 months of this campaign, I would say look at endorsements. And when I first got on this thing, I've never done this thing before and ran for office or anything like that. I wasn't real big on endorsements. But after having to go in front of a lot of groups and seek their endorsement, it is very important. And it's telling to what your campaign is about, very telling. And so I'm proud to say that the vast majority of people who currently work for my opponent through their labor unions have endorsed my campaign for sheriff. That is the Snohomish County Deputy Sheriff's Association, that is the Snohomish County Corrections Guild, and a Teamster 763, which is a conglomerate of smaller labor unions within corrections and law enforcement. In addition to those endorsements, the Everett Police Officers Association has endorsed my campaign, the Edmonds Police Officers Association, and the Arlington Police Officers Association. So if you don't believe a word I said today, look at our endorsements, look at what the police are saying, okay? We are screaming for change in the law enforcement community, and 2019 is the year, and thank you for hearing from us today. Ty.
I completely agree with Adam. I thank you all for being here. I know this gets fairly long, and I would also encourage you to fact check us on everything. I think that's absolutely vital, especially when it comes to public safety. I'm really proud of the last 6 years in our record. Recently, we had several cold case homicides that were solved with new DNA technology. And just this summer, we had the very first trial in the nation that resulted in a guilty verdict that brought some peace to the families that have been waiting for over 30 years. When I first took over in the sheriff's office, I worked with the city of Marysville, the city of Lake Stevens, our tribal partners, to create the very first collaborative partnership over property crimes, to bridge the gap between jurisdictional lines and put a team of people together instead of having different offices do different things. We've had dramatic success with that. We've been able to bring a lot of people to justice because we collaborated and we didn't ask for any more money. My agency pioneered the social worker program that has been successful and in place in almost every city in Snohomish County. Just last month, the Snohomish County Jail, the largest jail, there's 3 in this county, the largest jail was the 3rd jail in the state of Washington, full-service jail, to be accredited by the state of Washington. When I was appointed in 2013 mid-year, I had to go to the county council in the last part of 2013 and ask for $1.7 million because we were out of whack in budget. And I made a commitment that I would never do that again. And since serving as your sheriff, every year we have been innovative, we've changed how we're doing business, we've made changes to our jail, and we've come in under budget. Thanks for being here.
Rob.
Well, thanks again for coming this morning. I've served 6 years in the Marine Corps, served the last 8 years on the Marysville City Council. 7 of those years I was on the Fire Board of Directors. I've been endorsed by over 30 elected officials across the county. Majority of those are nonpartisan elected officials from fire districts, school boards, port commissioners, city councils. Been endorsed by Mayor John Naring and Council Member Nate Naring, who are here this morning, and many of the city council members that I serve with. Over 10 years, I've been serving the investment or the individual and business community with their investments, accounting, payroll, bookkeeping, personal financial needs. I'm asking for you to support my campaign so I can continue to serve the citizens of this county as your next treasurer. So please join me in supporting myself, Rob Toyer, for the next county treasurer.
Great, and good morning again, and thank you. Along with everybody else, I really, truly appreciate your involvement. So, and don't forget to vote, right? So, in closing, I'm proud as being the finance chair for the last 12 years on the county, overseeing over $1 billion budget, including the sheriff's office, I might add, and the jail. But I'm also very proud of a reform package that I got passed as the chair of the county council. So we now have, for the first time in county history, a revenue forecasting council. It's a little complicated, so I won't get into too much detail about it, but it requires both the county council and all the electeds in the county executive to agree to a revenue before we start working on the budget. Also passed a series of ordinances for cost control measures to make our budget more sustainable. And for the first time in county history, created a rainy day fund that now has populated roughly about $3 million to $4 million in that fund for the next economic downturn. Again, my top 4 issues is the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. So in that primarily is to take care of and educate our seniors. Our new software system, ProVal, $5.5 million project, and to integrate our systems between the assessor and the treasurer to better organize and get our tax rolls in order. A lot of things are falling through the cracks, and we're missing revenue presently. So reorganize our foreclosure fund to help help our housing crisis, and better transparency and online investments and financial operations. It's more intuitive on the web. Thank you. Oh, and buy Toyota in Marysville.
On behalf of the Marysville Tulalip Chamber of Commerce, its members, and the public, we want to thank each one of the candidates for being here at our forum today. Our goal was to present a fair and impartial format that will aid citizens in their decision-making process. Your vote is extremely important. Weigh your choices carefully, and please remember to vote on November 5th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. In closing this morning, I want to make a few acknowledgments. First and foremost, thank you to today's moderator, Mr. Peter Rudolph, and thank you. Thank you to our timekeeper, Todd Fallman. Thank you. I just didn't know whether that thing worked. Thank you to the candidates for keeping this very much on pace, very succinct answers. I second the motion, Peter. Boy, if you guys could give that to the national debates, that'd be great. We failed to mention earlier today that King 5 is also covering this as well, too. So I want to give a thank you to King 5 and Eric Wilkinson for covering this. Hopefully, you'll find some space between whistleblowing coverage to fit this in. I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Jim and Perry of Marysville Toyota. Thank you very much. To our partners, the Tulalip Resort Casino and the Tulalip Tribes, for hosting this month after month, delicious breakfast after delicious breakfast. Thank you again. To the City of Marysville for airing these forums on Comcast Channel 21 and Verizon Channel 25. To 564 IT for video editing and getting this on the Chamber YouTube channel. Chris, thank you for all the work. I don't think we give you enough credit, really, but it's very much appreciated. Announcements for the upcoming events. We have a small business summit on October 15th at the Marysville Opera House. We will also have the next business before hours will be next Friday. Not next Friday, but the next one will be Friday, October 25th. And that will be a business-to-business speed networking theme. One more reminder that the Chamber is having its 5th annual Christmas dinner and auction called Home for the Holidays, and that will be held on Thursday, December 5th, right here at the Tulalip Resort. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for your support of the community. Thank you for your engagement. And as they've all mentioned, please make sure you get out and vote on November 5th. Thank you. Have a great weekend, all.